다시 불기 주신 매도장 위라등신인데 겐하디 상계 신등닉대 우ar기 조근남다 신라주파쇼 상계주담 서기주담 정신발두닥니 갸스지 나기 주신 기패 스남기 요라 펜칠 상계주파쇼 상계주담 서기주담 정신발두닥니 갸스지 나기 주신 기패 스남기 요라 펜칠 상계주파쇼 상계주담 서기주담 정신발두닥니 갸스지 나기 주신 기패 스남기 요라 펜칠 상계주파쇼. I hope everybody had a nice little break. I wanted to share something with you before we get into class that a friend of mine posted on Facebook, but it seemed rather apropos to what we've been talking about here, a real life experience. And it's written by a man named John Pavlovitz. It's called With the Time You Have Left Here. We should do a CAT scan just to rule out some things, the urgent care doctor said. Before I could ask him, he responded to the question that immediately formed inside my throbbing head. Things like aneurysms or tumors. A few minutes later, I was sitting on a roll of white onion skin examining table paper beneath the raking fluorescent light of an antiseptic, nondescript hospital room, and imagining the worst. My mind rocketed to the dire news he could have for me in a few minutes, just what he might say when he returned, and the terrifying dominoes that would fall afterward. I imagined telling my wife and considering treatment options and explaining it to our kids and paying bills and changing vacation plans and 100 different things that sitting there seemed like a pending reality. It's one of those moments when you remember that you are not permanent, that you aren't superhuman, that this will all be over someday and far sooner than we realize or want. The examining room door flew open and abruptly interrupted my dizzying daymare in progress. Everything came back negative, he said, so we're in good shape. He kept talking, but I didn't hear much after that. I was too busy trying to fight back tears. And just like that, the tidal wave of terror subsided. The color returned to my cheeks, and I exhaled deeper than I had in recent memories. A few minutes later, I was outside watching the sun peeking over the tree line and feeling the breeze against my face and being relieved. So I'm not dying, I thought to myself, and then replied, well, not yet anyway. Since that morning, I've been thinking about the fact that I didn't get an exemption with that good news, just a temporary reprieve. One day the news won't be good. One day I won't get to exhale. One day I might not see the sun. Some people think it's morbid to consider your demise, but I think it's helpful. We should remember that we all have an expiration date, that our days here are finite, and that we all have far less time than we want. And we should give ourselves the gift of doing the math of our remaining existence. If you're reading this, chances are you have at best 8 or so decades left here, but likely far less than that. There is a number that exists that you can't see, and that number represents the sunrises you have remaining. And the question I asked myself as I left the hospital is the same one I'll ask you. What do you want to do with the time you have left? How much of those precious, fleeting, irretrievable, once they're gone seconds do you want to spend? Postponing a dream you've been carrying around? Holding a grudge against someone you can't seem to forgive? Obsessing about your waistline or hairline or worry lines? Waiting for someone else's consent to be happy? Being a bystander to injustice? Looking for approval from strangers on social media? Being less than the most authentic version of yourself? Compromising your convictions to keep the peace? Staying in a relationship where the other person doesn't give what you give? Beating yourself up for that stupid stuff your younger self did? It isn't easy to get out of the well-worn ruts our minds make for us. The ordinary days have a way of lulling us into believing there isn't any urgency to them, that somewhere off in the distance we'll actually begin doing the important stuff we need to do. This is just a reminder that this is the day to do that important stuff. This is a reminder that your days are numbered, and since you don't know what the number is, you should live the hell out of this day. Ask anything, say everything, give yourself a break, show mercy, have the cake. Notice how fast your kids are growing. Treasure the lines on your face as mementos of grief and joy. Tell someone you love them while they can still hear you. Stop being your own kryptonite. Find a hill worth dying on and take it. Have a second piece of cake. This day, as ordinary and uneventful as it seems, is one of the relatively few you have left. Do something worthy of it. When death shows up to give you news you didn't want and didn't see coming, may it interrupt you in the act of really living. Awesome. I thought it was pretty awesome. Beautifully written. Got shivers. My Dharma sister, Elaine Jackson, had posted that. I wanted to share it with you guys. So I sent you guys an extra little email, just for the fun of it, with some pictures of some of the lineage of the Sakya lineage. Right? So I thought it would just be fun to have. So before we get into class, let's take 5 minutes to review the 5 powers and how you can apply them in the rest of your day today. Can I remind you of them? Yes, I can indeed. The first one is projecting power. It means making a resolution to go forward. The second one is habituation, the power of habituation. So anytime you go from one thing to another, reset your motivation, reset your bodhicitta. The third one is karpo sabu, gito, white seeds, pure white seeds. Figure out how you can make pure white seeds and do it. 4 is sunjimpa gito. It's to rip out. So you're ripping out the heart of yourself. cherishing, and ripping out every bad thought. Number 5 is Munnan Ito, Munnan being prayer. So this is at night, just before you get ready to go to sleep. Rejoice in all of your good deeds and dedicate those to be a bodhisattva, to achieving bodhicitta. So those are the 5 in our daily life. And then they have corresponding how they fit into the time of passing from this world into another. So, yes?
Can I have a question?
Go ahead.
And the path of habituation is in every single thought that we have, right? When we make the decision that not be angry or not be jealous or be happy, and habituated to that sensation, and in that moment we need to remember our motivation.
I would say yes to that, but specifically in this instance with these particular 5 powers, it's like when you get ready to go to leave the temple here, before you go, reset your motivation for goodness, for bodhicitta, to be a bodhisattva. That's what it's talking about specifically here.
And how long we need to take to habituate us?
Well, if we do that every time we move from one position or one thing to another thing, it will habituate us to plant the seeds to become a bodhisattva. Because we're recommitting ourselves to bodhicitta. We're recommitting ourselves to goodness. So that habituates us to doing it.
I think you also said that then when you come to that moment of death, which is a change,
Right.
you know, you will be habituated to bring up bodhicitta at that moment.
In every action.
Hmm?
This practice is in every action.
It's talking about like, okay, you're sitting here, and then you get up to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
So in that transition moment from getting up to going to do something else, you stop for a moment and you say, okay, whatever I'm going to do next, may I do it with as much wisdom and caring and love and kindness as I possibly can. You've dedicated to bodhicitta.
Like a cell phone guy, you say about the
Pardon?
cell phone guy, one person before answering the cell phone.
Yeah, she mentioned that using the ring of your cell phone.
Right, using
To
the ring of
remind
your
you.
cell phone.
Oh, okay, good. I got it.
Right.
Little tricks, any little tricks.
Any little tricks. Like doing your book. Reminds you again, right?
Thank you, sorry.
So we're going from talking to meditating. We can take that moment to reset our motivation. And that would be the power of habituation. That would be the number 2. Yeah. You bring your mind back to the class, back to this room. And as we shift into our more formal class, let's use it for Gompa Gito. Reset our motivation. Why am I taking this class? I'm taking it so that I can become enlightened and help all beings. That's why I'm taking this class. Or whatever way you want to say it for yourself. And that's how we use Gompa Gito, how we make those transitions. Why am I teaching this class? So we're going to continue on with the Lojongs. And we're going to continue with one called Freedom from the Four Attachments. It was written by Jetsun Drapa Gyelse, who learned it. It was taught to him by Lord Manjushri. He lived from 1147 to 1216. And he was the third of the, what they call the Great Five. The Great Five Sakya, which is one of the schools of Tibetan Buddhism, patriarchs, the fathers.
Did you say he was the third?
He was the third of the five, yes. His nephew was, say, Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita. Kunga Gyelse. He lived 1182 to 1251. And the Sakya Pandita's nephew was, say, Drogun, Gyelse, Pakpa. Drogun, Gyelse, Pakpa. Yeah. He lived 1235 to 1280. And he's the one who brought Buddhism to Mongolia. So this text, say, Shempa, Shidra, Shempa, Shidra. Shempa means attachments, Shi is four, and Drel is freedom. So freedom from the four attachments. And as Jetsun Drapa Gyelse was thinking about the meaning of the words that Manjushri had spoken to him, the freedom from the four attachments, he realized that the entire practice of the path of the perfections could be found in this teaching. The first one is a person who is attached to this life is no Dharma practitioner. So, he thought, well, so what does attached mean? Does it mean enjoying things or having goals in this life? Does it mean caring about things? And as we were just listening to this young man who went through this experience at the hospital, and he reiterated so sweetly to us is what we choose to do with our life on a daily basis indicates how attached we are to this life. By making the right choices about what to dedicate your life towards is freedom from attachment. So how do you decide what you want to do with your life? How do you determine your code of ethics, what you will live by? Like what to give up and what to take up. There are 4 ways that this happens, just spontaneously. that we don't even generally think about how we make these decisions. One is, say, bakchak. Bakchak. Bakchaks are seeds from the past. So we would call them instincts. And because they're seeds, will they last? No. They will wear out. So our good instincts are impermanent. And when the pressure is on, they may very easily leave us, our good instincts. Our self-cherishing will rise to the surface. The second one is, say, sorwa. Sorwa. Your feelings. You keep ethics only when you feel good. When you feel bad, you tend to break your ethical code. You will do things to get what you want without thinking about it when you're unhappy. When you're happy, it's easy. Another way we determine what we're going to do with our life and how we're going to live it is, say, luksu. Luksu. This is the customs of your country. These are the laws of your country. What they say is good, and what they say is not good. Are they permanent? Do they change over years? What is okay to do and what is not okay to do? Yes, they do. So is that a good thing to rely upon? Pa-ma. Pa-ma. Who's pa and ma? Mom and dad. Your parents. Your parents' morality. What they taught you was good. Is that necessarily ethical? Not necessarily. So this is the way most of us decide things in our lives, through our culture, through our parents, through our religions, through our instincts, through our teachers, friends, laws, feelings, gut feelings, you know. And if that's how you run your life, then he's saying you are no Dharma practitioner. Instead, base your life on the understanding of karma and emptiness, not on what your teacher said was right, not on what your religion said was right and wrong, but on karma and emptiness. And he goes on to say, but you know what? While you're a student, you will suffer. Because it takes a lot of work. So people who are attached to small pleasures can never gain great ecstasy. We want a permanent ecstasy. We want a permanent compassion and love. We want that for ourselves and for others. And we know that anything outside of us is just going to disintegrate. We'll be happy with it for a little while, and then it will break, or we'll get bored of it, and then we look for the next thing. So this is aiming us at not being attached to those sorts of things, but being, is it wrong to be attached to wanting to become an enlightened being? Is it wrong to be attached to wanting to become an enlightened being? No. So these are the things we have to think about. The second one, say kamsum, lashen, nanyen, jumin. person who is attached to the three worlds has no renunciation. So the three worlds refers to the three kinds of suffering. The suffering of suffering, the suffering of change, and all pervasive suffering. So the suffering of suffering. Say Yen Song Sung. It means the three lower realms. Those in the three lower realms experience the suffering of suffering. We have Dunju, which is animals, the animal realm. Yidak or Preta, which are called hungry ghosts or craving spirits. And Yelwa, the hell realms. Where do these realms exist? In samsara, yes. And Tahi is saying in heart and mind, or mind, mind and mind. The Majjhimika Prasankika viewpoint is that they are projected by a ripening karma. They exist in your mind, as Tahi has said. They are real. It doesn't mean they exist only in your brain, right? They are real because they are a projection. And this is referring to, so this is referring to a person who is attached to creating the causes to be born as one of these beings, as an animal being, as a preta being, as a hell being. And you have to study the causes for being reborn in one of these realms. And that is in the course, Death in the Realms of Existence. Say Daktun, Lashen, Nan Jang Sem, Min. Daktun Lashen, Na Jang Sem Min. This is number 3. A person who is attached to getting what he or she wants is no bodhisattva. I want what I want, no matter at whose expense. It's pretty clear that that's not a bodhisattva attitude, right? I want what I want, and I want you to have what you want. That's the flip side of it, right? And then number 4, say Zimpa, Juna, Tawa, Min. One who grasps to self-existence has no correct worldview. What is this saying? It's saying if you are grasping to things, if you believe that things exist self-existently, you do not have a correct worldview. I don't know about you, but how many times a day do you have correct worldview? Zip. I think we all have our moments of correct worldview. Let's not cheat ourselves totally, right? Else we wouldn't even be studying this. So those are the 4 attachments, freedom from those 4 attachments, which Jetsun Trapa Gyeltsen learned from Lord Manjushri and passed them down to us. The next lojong we're going to do is the 12-point lojong. In Tibetan, it's lojong namke kim ma. Lojong, we already know what that is, right? To develop a good heart. Namke, namka, right? Sky, space. And Kima is celestial mansions. So in astrology, how many celestial mansions are there? There's 12. Yeah. And so that's why this is translated then into English as the 12-point lojong. So the first one is say ichi. 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 This means trustworthy. You can count on someone to do what they say. They don't let you down. So we want to be a being like that. The second one is say kadrin.
Kadrin.
Dren. Kadrin dren.
Kadrin.
They are loyal, or you are loyal. You remember the kindness of your sweet teacher and your fellow students who have helped greatly in your practice. So kadrin dren is kindness, and dren means to remember. You remember their kindness. You have gratitude. Say Mila.
Mila.
Rok.
Rok.
Mila.
Mila.
Rok.
Rok.
Means helpful. You always help anyone who needs it, if it's within your power to do it. Number 4, say kunla jam.
Kunla jam.
Kunla jam.
Kunla jam.
Kunla is everyone, la is two, and jam like in jampani, or jampelyang, gentle voice, right? Manjushri. Friendly to everyone. You treat everyone in a gentle, soft, friendly way. Number 5, say Shenla
Shenla.
Trelchen.
Trelchen.
Shenla Trelchen.
Shenla Trelchen.
Shen is others. La is two. Drel is courteous. And Chen is big. So you're sensitive to others' reactions to what you do. You give up your seat, you help carry stuff, you hold the door open. You're courteous. Say Shengi Dren.
Shengi Dren.
Shengi Dren.
Shengi Dren.
Shen is others, he is of. Dren is a foot servant. You're kind. You are the servant of others. You are at their command. Number 7, say Dulwar.
Dulwar.
Nyen.
Nyen.
Dulwar.
Dulwar.
Nyen.
Nyen.
Anybody remember what Dulwar is? It's to be tamed. It's the name for learning ethics, Dulwa, the study of ethics. And Yen means to listen, which means you listen carefully to what you're asked to do and then you do it. You are obedient, obediently helping your Lama and other people. Now, if you disagree with it, does that mean you still do it? Just blindly?
As long as it's ethical.
As long as it's ethical. You know, there's that story about the Lama who had 3 students, and they were running out of food, and they didn't have any money to buy food, and they were in a bad way. And he told them to go rob a bank. And 2 of his students said, yes, Lama, we'll go rob a bank. Well, there probably weren't banks then, but something similar. And one student stayed behind, and Lama turned on him wrathfully. He was like, why are you still here? And he said, with all due gratitude for everything that you have taught me, with all of my love for you, I don't believe that that's what you really meant, was for us to go and rob a bank. Because you could never get anything by robbing a bank, except more suffering. And the Lama relaxed and put his hands on his student's head and said, you're my true student. We have to use our own wisdom. And when something does not look correct to us, we don't just blurt it out, but with respect, we say, Lama, or somebody you're working with, whoever it is, with all due respect, I understand that you're asking me to do this, but for this reason and this reason and this reason, I don't feel that I can do it, that it's proper. That is the correct way. So, obedient, for me, I'm going to say obedient to wisdom. Geshe-la doesn't say this. He would never say obedient just out of blind faith. You have to be careful with these things. You have a look on your face to you.
Well, it's like something she said too.
Speak up so other people can hear you if you can.
Yeah, so if they ask you to do something that doesn't hurt anybody else, and you don't think it's a good thing to, it seems to me like a relationship has to be one where you will trust them in some circumstances as long as it's not hurting somebody, so that you don't always say no just because you disagree, but you say no if it's going to be hurting somebody else. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm talking about disagreeing because you believe that it's not an ethical thing to do. Not just because I don't think that's a good thing to do. But you know, you might. Like, I'm thinking of a circumstance that when we were building the other retreat center, we were asked to take the insulation, the fiberglass insulation, out of its plastic wrapper before it went into the floors of the yurts. Well, you know how windy it is out here, and it was making a mess, which was much more dangerous to other beings. So, and yes, so you're hurting other beings in that situation. It's like, no, this isn't a good thing for us to be doing. I know you'd like to not have plastics and, you know, things that aren't natural in your yurt, but no, this isn't a good thing because A, B, and C. Yeah. Good thing to clarify this. We're on to number 8. Say Zoomkar, Chen. Zoomkar, Chen. What's Chen? We just had it. Big. Big. Car, like in Karpo, Sabu. White. Flowers are car. Zoom. Smile. Be cheerful. Have a big white smile. Never act grumpy. Working cheerfully for others. You don't complain or whine about things. Say Tunze, Bakyu. Tunze, Bakyu. Be thrifty. Don't waste the planet's resources. Turn off the lights. Don't buy unnecessary things. then you can share more with others. Number 10, patak den.
Den.
Patak den.
Den.
Be brave. You are courageous, especially with your worldview and your lifestyle. Do the right thing, regardless of the apparent consequences. Number 11, dakshing so.
Dakshing so.
Dakshing so. Be clean. To create your own pure land or paradise, have a simple, clean home, simple, clean space around you, and this is the cause for your Buddha paradise. And number 12, Sichusam Shul. Chusam Shul. Reverent. Your mind is carried away in the stream of Dharma. Everything that you do all day, no matter what it is a happy Dharma activity. You make it that. It could be scrubbing toilets all day. It becomes a Dharma activity. How could you use weeding a garden as a Dharma activity? How can you use fixing things? How can you use going shopping as a Dharma activity? Everything can become a Dharma activity. Every book you ever read can become a Dharma teaching. Every movie you see. So the verse, I'm going to read you the verse that this comes from, or the verse is, from the 12-point Lojong. The true sign that they have succeeded in developing the good heart has come to any person who is full of the 12 spiritual qualities. As the Ganges is full of drops of water, and the way the expanse of the whole night sky is covered with the celestial mansion. Now, you can always count on them. They always repay the kindness received. They lend a hand to all who come, and are soft and gentle to everyone. They are courteous in their behavior to others, and act as a servant to all. They listen well what needs to be done, and greet you with a joyful smile. They use with respect resources we share, and their courage is always evident. Their places are clean and simple. They are getting their paradise ready, and the Dharma has captured their hearts. People like this are truly kings of the great soaring lords, the Garudas. They will pass with speed to the heaven where the youthful guide holds court. When Geshe-la first taught this, somebody in the class was like, Geshe-la, this is the Boy Scout code. These are the 12 precepts of the Boy Scouts, quite amazingly enough, right? Think it's just a coincidence? So, as your Dharma practice becomes more and more powerful, you can look back in your life and rewrite your history. Oh, when I was a Boy Scout, the holy beings were trying to teach me how to live properly. Right? And you will start to have something called namdak, which is where you realize that the early influences in your life were not normal people. Enlightened beings can appear in any way at all, anywhere. They may look like a normal person, but can you really say whether they're a normal person or not? Could they not have been both a normal person and a Buddha? And I would say especially those who may have caused some suffering in your life. They didn't want you to get used to this life. They wanted to push you out of it. They wanted you to think and be dissatisfied with samsara, with what this life had to offer. Can you think of it that way? Is that possible it could be like that? Or were they just trying to hurt you? Or maybe they just couldn't help themselves. But is it possible that they were trying to help wake you up? Do we have the capacity to judge that? And as we can rewrite our history, our world becomes purer and purer. You can think about, so many of us have had some tragedy in our life that brought us to the Dharma. Now, we can still call it a tragedy, and we can see it as something tragic. And it also has brought us to something that will help us to get out of a life of tragedy. So is it a negative thing or a positive thing? Yes. Right? We had a karma to experience it and for it to be very, very painful. And we had a karma that ripened from that experience to bring us something that gives us great joy and hope. Go back, check out all those people. Also the good ones, also your first grade teacher, your kindergarten teacher. Who were they? They taught me how to read. Could I be doing this without having them taught me how to read? Were they an angel? Have they been watching me and taking care of me for lifetime after lifetime? At least it's a fun way to think. So we're going to go on to another dojo now called, say, Suncha.
Suncha.
Korlo. Suncha.
Suncha.
Korlo. Suncha means knives or blades. Knives or blades. And Korlo means wheel. So it's called the Wheel of Knives. It was written down or written by, say, Dharma Rakshita. Dharma Rakshita. He was an Indian author and he passed on the Wheel of Knives teaching. We don't know his dates. He was a master of the Abhidharma teachings and he was taught by Lord Atisha, by Jogoje. Lord Atisha, we do know, lived 982 to 1052. And he first brought Buddhism from India to Tibet. His students were the Kadampas. The idea of the Wheel of Knives is described in the Vinaya Sutras, the sutras on ethics. And it presents the topic of karma and its consequences. It's the idea that if you do something to someone else, it comes back to you. It's like a big boomerang. So the reading doesn't have the entire text, only pieces of it. It also includes a chart that lists the correlations between results and causes. And you're going to need that for your homework. And it's a good thing, it's a wonderful thing to have to refer back to. And I believe that Aura put it together. So we can all feel grateful to Aura for putting that together, those of us who know her. And even those of us who don't. So in the Wheel of Knives, Master Dharmarachita refers to the henchman of the devil. So who is this henchman? The henchman of the devil is the state of mind that grasps to yourself. In one sense, this means only working for your happiness. In another sense, it means seeing ourselves as self-existent, as not being produced by our karma, forced on us, right? Not being a projection, forced on us by what we've thought, by what we've said, by what we did in the past. So the Wheel of Knives correlates results you may be experiencing now with the causes that created them. So it's a great teaching, you can look up, okay, this is what I'm experiencing now. What did I do in the past to do this? It doesn't necessarily mean that you're creating it now, that you're creating the causes now. Because as we know, karmas from the past can hang around for a long time until they ripen. If they are ripe, if we do see them ripening and we're not doing them now, still be very vigilant, be very careful not to do them now. Because you don't want to see them coming to flower in the future. Right? So, say you're experiencing the karma of somebody lying to you. And generally, you're a very truthful person. To clean up this problem, you must never waver from being a truthful person. Always be truthful. Be very, very strict about it. And then after some time, watch your reality change. Describing how something happens is usually the way we think about how things work. But we shouldn't confuse with how with why. We were talking about the spot on the wall. We know how it happened, that the rain came through the adobe. But why? Why in that particular spot? Why not over here? Why not over there? Why do we see it? And this is what the Wheel of Knives describes. The actions we performed in the past that create the result that we're experiencing now. So we use this, the why, to fix our problems rather than the how. The how is just how it manifests, just how it appears. It's not why it appeared that way. And if we use the how description of how it happened, we may end up making things worse. So the real enemy is, say, Rang Chenzin. Rang Chenzin. Rang is self, and Chenzin is cherishing. Self-cherishing. The state of mind that watches out just for me and ignores others. Say Daksin. Daksin. Dak is self-existence, and Zin is to hold or to grasp. So grasping to a self. the state of mind that looks at yourself and doesn't understand your emptiness. So we have self-cherishing, and we have grasping to a self-existent self. These two things. Because we believe we have some existence from our own side, that causes our self-cherishing. If I saw you three as me, I would bring 4 glasses of water. Or I would bring 1 glass and share it, either way. The fact that I see me as me and you as you, I'll get myself a glass of water and not think about you. Because we grasp at that, then the self-cherishing arises. So the way we reverse this, wheel of knives so that they aren't coming at us all the time, and is to turn it around, and instead of being solely on the receiving end of our past karma, we start with our creating our future. Creating the future we want. That was the first power, right? Projecting power. Creating the future that we want. We use method. We use bodhisattva activities, such as giving and ethics and patience and joyous effort, concentration, wisdom. Of course, wisdom is understanding emptiness. That accompanies every one of those activities to collect the 2 collections of merit and wisdom. And those 2 collections of merit and wisdom create the body and mind of an enlightened being. The text says that for our whole lives, we are constantly mistaking the reflection of the moon in our teacups for the real moon itself. We look into our glass, and I can do it here, and I can see the light reflecting in my glass, and I mistake it for the real light. So this is supposed to prove that we should do the good deeds we should do, and not the bad things that we shouldn't. So what is the connection? What creates the reflection of the moon in our teacup? It's the coming together of the cup, the tea, and the moon. This is the way all things we perceive are created. By the coming together of my own projections and the raw data, which of course are my projections too, on which these projections are placed. And that's all I have to say. It's only been an hour. We went through it like that. Right? So the Wheel of Knives, let me pull it up. I love the Wheel of Knives. It is such a powerful, it gets kind of gory because he's attacking his own self-cherishing, like trying to kill it rather than maybe having compassion for it and love for it, but I still really, I don't know, it spoke to me. Let me pull it up and get the reading out, since we have a little bit of time here. I bow down to the angry one, the Lord of Death. This is Dharma Rakshita. Peacocks wander in the midst of a forest of poison trees. A garden of healing herbs and plants may be something lovely, but peacocks have no love for them. They live off poison itself. Bodhisattva warriors are the same. A garden of comfort and pleasures may be something lovely, but the warriors have no attachment for them. They live off a forest of pain. The kings of cowardice who pursue comfort and pleasure find themselves transported instead to pain. Those mighty warriors who pursue pain for others find themselves forever surrounded by bliss, by the power of their courage. Now in this place, desire is like a forest of poison trees. Bodhisattva warriors, like peacocks, are strong enough to take it. Cowards, though, are like the crow, for the same leaves are death to it. How could those who only think of what they want themselves ever have the strength to eat this poison? The same is true with all the other mental afflictions there are. These are enough to threaten the life of nirvana for those like crows. The peacock bodhisattvas, though, turn the poison forest of their mental afflictions into opportunities and food to keep them strong. They leap then into the forest of this vicious circle of life. They make it an opportunity and thus destroy the poison. Realize now that grasping for yourself is the henchman of the devil. It keeps you here in this vicious circle, helpless to help yourself. Run now far from the state of mind that only wants what's good for me, that only wants what feels good, and happily take upon yourself any hardship for others' sake. Whenever I feel myself being carried away by what I want, may I stop myself and give away my own happiness to others. Whenever those who've pledged to help me instead do something very wrong, may I say to myself, it's because I failed to keep my mind on goodness and thus put my heart at ease. Whenever my body is stricken by some unbearable sickness, it's because the wheel of knives has turned on me again. The karma of doing harm to the bodies of other people. From now on, then, I'll take upon my own body all the sickness that comes to anyone at all. I'm just going to pause here for a moment because I realized I didn't tell you the story of the Wheel of Knives. Do you guys know it?
The island?
You don't think so? It's interesting because right now I'm reading a book that takes place on an island, like up in next to Sweden, up in the Baltic. And the story of the Wheel of Knives takes place on an island. And as most places that are islands, the people who live there, they live off of the fruit of the sea. They live off of fishing. And so the families, that's what their livelihood is they fish. And there's this one particular family, and they were a healthy family, and there were children, and the father was a fisherman. And one time he went out fishing, and he didn't come back. There was a big storm, and they never saw him again. And so they were, not only were they not so healthy and rich anymore, they had lost their livelihood and their father and husband, and it was very painful. And the oldest boy, as he grew up, he knew this, and he knew that his father had been lost to sea. But as they became teenagers, all of his friends began going out to sea with their fathers and fishing. And he wanted to go too. He wanted to do the same thing that his friends were doing. So he went to his mother and he said, "Mother, I know Papa died out fishing, but all my friends are going, and I really, really want to go too. I don't want to have to stay here and take care of the pigs and the cows and clean out their, muck. I want to do what my friends are doing. So he came to his mother and asked this, and she said, please, please, you're my oldest son, or maybe it was even her only son. Please don't go. I've already lost your father. I need you. I love you. And so he was an obedient son, and he said, okay, Mom, I won't go. And some time passes, and he's getting restless again. He's getting dissatisfied with his lot in the world. And all his friends, none of them have died, and he wants to go out to sea and be with them. And so again, he goes to his mother. And again, she entreats him, please don't go. Please don't go. He says, okay. And he tries to live with it and be at peace with it. But he isn't really inside. There's this turmoil and this desire. And he comes to her a third time. Mother, this is like, all my friends are doing this. I want to do it. Please let me go. And he's very forceful at this point. And she begs him, and he gets angry, and he pushes and shoves her, and she falls down, and he leaves. And he goes out to sea to be a fisherman. There is a storm. And he gets washed up on an island in the storm. And he's almost drowned, and he's laying there on the edge of the island, hardly alive, and he hears this amazing music. And he's like, am I dreaming? Am I dead, or am I alive? And all of a sudden, there are these three maidens leaning over him. And they bring him back to life, basically. And I don't remember all the particulars, but they take him back to their castle. They are princesses. And he lives in this great splendor with these three princesses, and everything seems great. And there's something that happens, and I can't remember it right now. It happens like 3 times. He wanders out, and something happens, and they bring him back. And there's something that happens 3 times. And I didn't review this before this class. I'm just remembering it off the top of my head right now. Anyway, he's in this castle, and he's wandering around it, and he meets a young man who has a wheel of knives on his head. And it's cutting, the blades are facing inwards, and it's cutting his head. And he is just horrified, and he says, what happened? What happened to you? Why do you have these knives spinning around you and cutting you? And he tells him a story. He says, I was a young man on an island, and I wanted to go fishing with my friends, and my mother wouldn't let me. So the first time I was obedient. The second time I asked her, she wouldn't let me go, and I was obedient. The third time, I didn't listen to her, and I pushed her and ran as fast as I could to get away. And I found myself on a desert island, and these 3 princesses found me. And so he's telling the same story as this other young man. And he then tells them that the wheel of knives is there because he created this terrible karma towards his mother. And so he is suffering from having hurt his mother in such a way. And the young man is listening to this story, and he's sobbing and sobbing. And he has this wish that the young man be free of the wheel of knives. And it lifts off the young man's head and comes to his head. story of the Wheel of Knives, with slightly abridged because I couldn't remember it all. So whenever I feel any pain inside my own thoughts, it's because the Wheel of Knives has turned on me again. Beyond a doubt, it's the karma of upsetting other people. From now on, then, I'll take on myself the hurt that others feel. And these are where the karmic correlations are coming in, if you listen carefully. Cause and result. Whenever I find myself tormented by feelings of thirst and hunger, it's because the Wheel of Knives has turned on me again. The karma of burdening others financially, of thieving, of stealing, or failing to share. From now on, I'll take on myself the hunger and thirst of others. And so he continues, Dharmarachita, in this way, describing how the Wheel of Knives has turned on him again from the unwholesome deeds that he did. I'm scrolling down. When I find myself unable to understand a single thing, it's because the Wheel of Knives has turned on me again. The karma of following spiritual paths that are better left behind. From now on, then, I'll spend my time in learning and the rest, in pursuing perfect wisdom. Since this is the way things are, I finally realized just who my enemy is. I've caught the thief who lay in wait and deceived me with his trap. He's a masquerader, fooling others and fooling himself as well. I see it now. He's the habit I have of grasping to myself, and of this there can be no doubt. Now let's see the Wheel of Knives of karma cut his skull. O angel of wrath, now cut his skull, cut thrice, stand like a god on widespread legs, of knowledge of two truths. Stare in hatred with two eyes of method and wisdom. Open your jaws and show your fangs, four powers of confession. Sink them deep within the flesh of this my hated foe. Is it okay to be angry at your mental afflictions? Or to just go, your guys are okay, you can stick around. It's probably the most virtuous anger that we ever have, is to be angry at our mental afflictions, because they are causing all of the pain in our world. So I call on the King of the secret knowledge and secret words that work to torture all these enemies. There is no freedom here in the woods of the vicious circle of life. Take up in your hands the Wheel of Knives, take up the wheel of karma. Speed to the side of my foe, the cruel one, evil demon that he is, this grasping to myself, broken vows and promises, waster of my life and others. Go and fetch him here. You have it in your reading. You can read everything that's been translated. Gyelse said it's not all here. I'm not sure what's missing. It's a very passionate poem. And Dharmarachita wanting to be freed from all of his mental afflictions and not just sitting back and not doing anything about them, but taking direct action and saying, you are ruining my life and the life of others. You gotta go, and you gotta go now. And it's this kind of passion, if we have it, that will take us to enlightenment. And it's the quick path to have that kind of passion, to get there as quickly as possible, to see your world as a heaven, to see those around you as angels, to see the end of suffering. So thank you for humoring me, letting me read to you. Our meditation is going to be examining the 3 or 4 most serious problems in our life and checking mentally the list of their karmic causes from the list that we have that's found in the Crown of Knives. It's there in your reading, the correlations. Like, okay, somebody give me a problem. Let me pull them up. Nobody has any problems.
My grandchildren not doing what I've asked them to do.
Okay. I've got to flip all these around because they're facing the wrong way. Rotate, right. I have to look through all the pages. See if this one comes up or something similar. I haven't found a close correlation yet.
Maybe that one about listening, like no one listens to me.
What's
what
that?
I
No one,
say,
yeah.
no one thinks what I say is important.
Yeah, I'm
or something
trying
like
to
that.
find-
It's kind
yeah.
of similar.
It's very similar, but I haven't found it yet. There are lots of pages here, and I have to rotate every one of them.
It's actually what I say that the mother says is you're not listening to me.
What is the cause of having people not listen to you?
You don't listen, but you don't see other people. Like, they're like,
Speak up so it can be on tape.
they're like invisible for you, you know, like you see the people, but you don't put too much attention. You don't care. Like,
I don't think it's in these correlations.
Oh, that's a different.
I think it comes from useless speech.
Yeah, it's one of those speech ones.
Yeah,
no one
it comes
listens
from there.
to you. They don't think what you say is important.
Right.
Got
I think
it.
that comes under speech.
It's in the original.
I'm gonna look. I'm looking. You've got it printed there. So I'll just read you one of these. So you are tormented by feelings of hunger and thirst. Means, and we already heard that one from Dharma Rakshita, right? Burdening others financially, not being financially self-supporting, thieving, stealing, failing to share. And the antidote is to take on yourself the hunger and thirst of others. Financially support them. Give them what they need. Okay? You hear unpleasant words from others. And the causes of that is the mistakes you've made and different things you've said, divisive talk and such. So talk only bad about what you yourself not about others. You find yourself alone without anybody to help you. You have no friends of your own. And the cause of that is leading away those who were close to another. And the antidote would be never act in a way that makes others lose the ones who are close to them. Don't come between people.
Here it is, idle talk. No one listens to you. No one respects what you say. No one thinks what you have to say is any particular value, and you are afflicted with a lack of confidence and self-esteem.
It comes from
Idle talk.
That's what I thought. And it's in this?
Well,
I don't
have
think
this
so.
printout, not from this reading,
Yeah.
but it's just someone gave it to me a long time ago, and
Yeah, I think that's probably.
it says causes and antidotes, the wheel of knives, but then it says the correlations ripened consequences. And
Yeah,
then
that's-
in that part.
Yeah, that's from a different class. That's from, is that from the karma class maybe? I don't remember, I'd have to look at. So somebody put them all together in one place? Yeah, I thought it was idle speech, gossip. So it's an interesting thing, idle speech, because sometimes it makes other people more comfortable, even though you're not interested in it yourself, but you're doing it because it makes somebody else more comfortable. Would that then be a cause to not have people listen to you?
No, because your motivation is pure.
Yeah, your motivation is pure. So, are things black and white?
Only black and white.
I think most of our karma is gray, a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Right? I was thinking about that one in particular because there's somebody who I feel like just most of the time doesn't hear me or doesn't remember that we talked about something or doesn't, and it's like, okay, what's the karma that I'm doing to have this appearing to me? And of course, the way I want to fix it is a very self-existent way. It's like, well, let me type down everything that we talked about so we're both on the same page, right? That we have an agreement here. And really, I have to watch my speech and make sure that when I'm talking, just chatting with somebody, that I'm not just chatting because I want to tell my story or I want to hear my voice, but that it puts the other person at ease. Yeah, I was thinking about that one last night. It's interesting you brought it up. Thank you.
I think with my granddaughter, it's a stage she's going through where sometimes she just doesn't want to do what other people are telling her to do. So it's more not a speech or listening thing, it's more of a petulance. And I think I might be doing things that make someone else think that I'm not listening to them. Or that I'm standing up against their authority.
Yeah, it sounds more like that than the listening.
Yeah.
thing, with your granddaughter, because it's like, it doesn't seem related to, she's not like, my grandmother's ideas aren't good, so I'm not gonna listen to them. She's just like, I'm gonna be independent, I'm not gonna listen to authority.
No one can tell me what to do.
Yeah, so that seems more related to.
I think we've all probably been through that stage too, but our parents through it.
It's long.
All righty, my dears. Let's dedicate this to what? What do you want to dedicate it to?
All the people in Florida. All the people in Florida. And
To
Texas.
all the people in Florida and Cuba and the islands and Georgia and South Carolina and who are in great danger. There was also an earthquake in Mexico 2 days ago. There is another hurricane coming in. There were floods in Nepal and Bangladesh and in India, let's dedicate it to all people who are suffering from natural disasters, and that they may find some comfort and be protected. Ale.
Sashi Kuki Jakshi Meto Viram Lingshi Ninte Genvadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwargi Jogunanda Shingma Juparshu Mera Guru Ranamanda Kamyatayani Di Kewogun Sunam Yeshe Soksokshi Sunam Yeshe Vejunwe Dampar Kuni Toparshu